Hey GenMax, I'm here in Pescadero, which is in Baja California Sur, and we're taking this video in a little bit different direction because we might not be talking directly about Mexico, and there's definitely some connections here, but specifically we're going to talk about 3 things that you can do in midlife to kind of redefine your next direction. And I think that's important because whether or not you're moving to Mexico, as you get into your 40s and 50s, life is changing and you might be looking for kind of what is next. And what is next might involve moving to Mexico, but probably should involve something bigger than that. So redefining, so you're not just sitting in a pub or sitting on the beach kind of doing nothing as you get into the next phase of life, but finding what is next spiritually, emotionally, physically. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I've got one of the founders of this place here called the Modern Elders Academy. Chip is with us and he's going to talk about 3 things that you can do to look into what's the next thing for you. So let's head over and meet Chip now. So before Chip starts with giving you those tips, I want him to tell a little bit about his background and just a tiny little bit about the Modern Elders Academy. It's beautiful here. We'll go into that a little bit later in the video. But let's start with kind of some background.
So my name is Chip Conley, and I moved down here to El Pescadero in Baja California Sur about 8 years ago. My story is I was for 24 years a boutique hotelier in the United States, based in San Francisco. Started one of the world's first boutique hotel companies and grew it to the second largest in the U.S., called Joie de Vivre, with 52 boutique hotels around California. And then I was asked, after I sold that company, to become the modern elder to the founders of Airbnb, someone who was as curious as he was wise. And the intention there was they wanted me to come in 11 years ago and help them take this little tech startup and turn it into a global hospitality brand. And so I did that for 7.5 years. At the end of my time there, I bought this home where we are right now, which was just going to be a home, was not going to be a campus, full of birds. I do love the birds early in the morning. And I was writing a book called Wisdom at Work, The Making of a Modern Elder. While I was writing that book, I had this Baja aha. I had an epiphany. And my epiphany was, why don't we have midlife wisdom schools, a place where people in midlife can come and reimagine and repurpose themselves. And so we opened in January 2018, and we've had 3,500 people come through our Baja campus here on the Pacific Ocean from 42 countries, and we have 26 regional chapters around the world.
This is just an amazing location here, looking out across the pool at the ocean. I'm sure in the winter, I'm sure you can see the whales go by. Yeah, because I've been in this area before and watched the whales. But let's get into some tips, some definite concrete things that you can do to start kind of your journey to maybe redefining where you're going in midlife, whether or not that is moving to Mexico. So this video is a little bit different. Usually I talk about moving to Mexico, but this really can apply anywhere you're going in life.
So midlife has a bad brand. Let's start with that. The one word that we attach to midlife is crisis. I like to think of it as a chrysalis. The midlife chrysalis is a time, just like in the caterpillar to butterfly journey, when you're going through transformation. And it may feel dark and solitary and gooey, and that's part of the reason we created MEA, was to have a place where people could come and be gooey together while figuring out what's next. So if I had 3 tips for people that really relate to our program here, they would be the following. The first one would be, the first half of our life is really about accumulating, and the second half of our life is about editing. And so what does that mean? It means that often in our 20s and our 30s and maybe even our 40s, we are accumulating friends and knowledge and relationships and, children possibly, and obligations and jobs and so many different things that by around 45 to 50, which is at the low point of what's called the U curve of happiness in terms of life satisfaction, we are overwhelmed. It's like we've got a lot of spinning plates. So it's around midlife that we need to sort of say, okay, maybe it's time to actually edit. So the first half of our life is about accumulating. The second half of our life is about editing. And one of the things we do here at the Modern Elder Academy, MEA, is we help people in the first 24 hours of a workshop, and our workshops are usually 5 or 7 days. We help them to actually get really clear about the mindsets, the obligations, the friends, the ways of being and thinking, the archetypes that define them, the identities that they're ready to let go of. And that process is not easy, but we have the first 24 hours is exclusively focused on that. And then we do a beautiful ritual on the beach with a bonfire where people throw in the fire the mindsets that no longer serve them. And they talk about what they're going to replace it with. So that process of editing is a really important part because you can't really open yourself up to be a beginner and try a bunch of new things if you're overwhelmed. It's hard to be curious when you have too much on your calendar. So that's the first step, is how do you edit your life in such a way that your 50s and beyond become a little more spacious, so you have some curiosity. So if you can't make it here to MEA, how can you do this on your own? Well, first of all, you don't have to build a bonfire. There's a lot of things you can do, but one of the things you should start with is find a place that's not your habitual place. Don't try to do this at home wherever you live. Get an Airbnb, go to a friend's place if they have a cottage in the backyard, and have some space. Be, if you can, near nature. One of the things I love to do is ask a question, nature, what do you have to teach me? And going out for a walk in nature can help you get in this place. The question you might ask yourself when you've given yourself this space is, what is giving you energy and what's taking it away? And it's a pretty simple question, but it's a profound one because often we don't really think about that. We think about like, okay, I got to go do all these things. I have my to-do list. The question is, do you want to have all those things on your to-do list? And so getting clear on what's bringing energy, what's taking it away, and then starting to make this list of what isn't working. Like what's a mindset? So what's an example of a mindset? So I have a mindset, this is a simple one, that I am terrible at yoga. And I had to sort of see what's behind that. And a lot of it had to do with social comparison, being in a yoga class with people who are really good at yoga, which is how I lived my 20s and my 30s. And so I got to a place where I didn't want to do yoga anymore. And so I got clear, like, okay, I want to do yoga because my new mindset is I love how I feel after a yoga class. But I realized that I wanted to do one-on-one yoga and that I could just hire a mindfulness teacher, get him Teddy here on our campus, to do a one-on-one session because I'm not comparing with other people. So that's an example. Another mindset could be, I always have to be the caregiver, but I don't caregive myself. And that many of us feel that. Or I have to be the hero. I always have to save the day. And it's not like you have to get rid of that completely. You can dose it down and just say, you know what? I only want to have half of that. So the mindset I'm getting rid of is that I always have to 100% be the hero or the caregiver. And the new mindset could be, I will be a caregiver or the hero on certain occasions, but I don't always have to do that. So getting clear about what these are, and then you don't have to build the bonfire. You could literally do one of two things. Have a bowl and just like throw into the bowl and cut in pieces the things you're getting rid of. Or if you want to do a little fire, if you have a little fireplace, you could have a fire. I highly recommend that you do it with one other person. You could do it by yourself, but doing it with one other person who's doing it as well is really powerful because by doing so, you're actually almost making a public commitment and a community commitment to that other person. These are the things I'm going to let go of, and these are the things I'm going to actually bring into my life.
So I like that. As Chip was talking, I was kind of thinking about like what kind of things I could get rid of. And then I realized I really did need that time, that this isn't something you can just kind of do in your spare time, that this is a commitment to yourself, to your future, that you're going to do in a space. And I mean, wow, to do this along the beach with the whales going by would be great. But let's get to a second tip that Chip has for you.
So my second tip is really appropriate after the first one. The first one was like, okay, I'm clearing space in my life by editing. The second tip is like going deeper on what is your gift. There's a beautiful saying, which is the purpose of life is to find your gift. The work of life is to develop it. And the meaning of life is to give it away. So the question I would pose to you is, what's your gift? Now that's a hard one. Like, what's your gift? What's your mastery? But one of the things we do here at MEA that you could do with a friend, you don't have to do this on the MEA campus. You could do this with just a friend. Maybe it's the same friend that you do the Great Midlife Edit with. And you would do a repeating question 5 times. Your friend would ask you, what mastery or gift do you or can you offer? Now you can choose either mastery or gift, whichever feels better to you. And so your friend's going to ask you, let's say you say, what gift? What gift can you offer? and you say, oh, I can offer, I'm a really good organizer of people, and I'm a good project manager. And your friend will say, thank you. And then they'll say, take a deep breath, and they'll ask you the exact same question again, and you cannot answer the same way. What mastery can you offer? It's like, oh, okay, well, I am really great. I'm a social alchemist. I'm someone who mixes people and helps them live up to their potential. Oh, wow. I never thought of that, but like, that's an interesting idea. Great. And then they say thank you, and they're going to ask you a third, a fourth, and a fifth time. So what this is, it's like an archaeological dig. Now, to be honest with you, you don't do this in a passing, like while you're driving somewhere with your friend. You don't do this while there's a bunch of other distractions. You do this when you've already done a little bit of work. I think if you did this as the second thing after your Great Midlife Edit, you'd be a little more prepared to do that archaeological dig. We talk at MEA about there's 3 vaults in our lives when we communicate. The first vault is the facts of our life, how old we are, where we live, etc., what we do. The second vault in our life is the stories of our life, the narrative. And we may be tired of that narrative, but other people often want to hear it because that gives some sense of like the personality of the person as opposed to just the facts. But what we really try to get to here at MEA is the third vault, and that's the essence. That's what someone says when they're unscripted and when they're in a place of feeling safe and comfortable. They might not even say it to their best friend. They might say it to someone they don't even know because they don't necessarily feel like that person's going to, go use it against them. But if you can say it to your best friend when you're in a space of spaciousness and vulnerability and your friend's doing the same thing, that's beautiful. So trying to do this exercise from the third vault, not from the facts, not from the stories, but from the essence or spontaneity or of where you are and who you are. That's where you will have your Baja aha, your epiphany. And the beautiful thing about this exercise is once you understand your gift, then you can actually start to look at how do you offer that in the world. Another part of this exercise that you might consider doing is the following question. If you were going to be the mentor to someone who is 10 years or 20 years younger than you, what are 5 pieces of advice or wisdom you might give them that no one else would probably give them? These are your specific pieces of advice or wisdom that are like your fingerprints. And that's another way to help you understand what gifts you have to offer the world.
I definitely should do this exercise because, immediately I thought of like, oh, my gift is like sharing with people my journey and helping people follow and come to Mexico. But I still need to do it 4 more times and figure out exactly what it is. But let's go on to the third thing that you can do, midlife, to find your next place. And once again, if you are moving to Mexico, I think it's important to kind of find that purpose so you're not just hanging out at the bar or the beach or something like that, but really continuing to grow when you're moving on after kind of your career time. I love it when people move to Mexico either to kind of finish out their career or retire early, but you do have to find something more. So let's go on to point 3.
My tip 3 is a broader tip, and it's so appropriate for Mexico. It is cultivating awe in your life. There's a guy named Dacher Keltner. In fact, he's teaching here in December. He teaches here every year. He's a UC Berkeley professor. He started the Greater Good Science Center. He's the world's leading expert on awe, and he lives within walking distance of our MEA campus. When the world's leading expert on awe lives within walking distance, you know you live in the right place. So we're very happy that he's a neighbor and a teacher here. He wrote a book called Awe, just AWE, that came out in January of 2023. Became a bestseller. And what he was able to show is that doing an awe walk or being in nature is not just something that makes you feel good. It's great for your brain. It's great for your nervous system. It has all kinds of physical health benefits. He talks in the book about 8 pathways to awe. I'm going to talk about 3 of them very briefly because there are 3 that we really focus on here at MEA. Surprisingly, the first on the list, when he did a study globally in terms of how do you find awe, was not nature. It was 3rd on the list, which I'll come to, but we're going to start with first on the list. First on the list was moral beauty. Now, what the heck is moral beauty? Moral beauty is when you see people showing courage and kindness in a way that makes you feel good about humanity. Now, this is particularly true and valuable in the times we live in, because we know that we live in a pretty harsh time, very polarized. We have a tendency with social media to be judgmental. And so actually moral beauty is sort of more scarce, or perceived to be more scarce than ever. Moral beauty can also be like being there at the birth of a child. It's basically being in experiences where you see the beauty of humanity. I love Mexico for that. And Mexico is a very hospitable culture. Mexico in the United States gets a lot of grief for being an unsafe place and cartels and things like that. Yes, there are parts of the country that have those issues. Where we live, it's so safe. This is safer than any place in the United States. It is the kind of place where women go out at nighttime who are here at the campus for walks on the beach and feel very comfortable. You leave your door unlocked. But that's partly because there's a culture here. And the culture here is that people want to be respected. They care very much what other people think of them. And so moral beauty is a part of awe. A second part of awe in Dacker's list is collective effervescence. How do you celebrate with other people in a way where your sense of ego separation declines and your sense of communal joy increases? Yesterday, I happened to be at a quinceañera. So quinceañera is when a 15-year-old girl is being brought into the world as a young woman. Now, she isn't a woman yet, but she's probably been through puberty, and it's a big collective event. And so much love and care is going through it, and so much beauty as well. And so I had a deep sense of awe yesterday at this event, where I could see that this young woman, actually older girl, was feeling the sense of love from her community. And I felt that. I feel it here at MEA, and I feel it in Mexico. Mexico has lots of festivals and lots of events that allow you to sort of connect with other people. Thirdly, it's nature. And let's just talk about nature for a minute. That's the one that everybody knows. And in Mexico, or specifically in Baja Sur, there's an article that came out recently that was in Travel and Leisure, and it was the 24 most beautiful places in Mexico. And 4 of those 24 places were in Baja Sur. 4 of them were right here in the least populated state per land area in the whole state of Mexico. And part of the reason there's a lot of beauty here is because it's the least populated state. It's not been built on. There's, on the east side where you live, it is a place where there's beautiful beaches and very, very calm waters. And there's sea turtle. You have sea turtles here. You have sea lions over there, and so much beautiful nature. And then on this side we have whales, and you have whales over there. You have whale sharks over there. We have whales migrating here. We have sea turtles erupting out of the sand on the beach. There's so much awe. And as I said earlier, I like to ask the question, nature, what do you have to teach me today? When I go for an awe walk with my dog, Jamie. So awe is an important part of life. Awe reminds you that you're a small place in this bigger earth. One of the things that often happens in midlife is we get very wrapped up in all of our challenges and all of the transitions that are going on. Awe reminds you that there's a bigger life out there beyond just the ghetto of your own mind. So highly recommend that you go experience awe. You don't have to do it in Mexico. You could do it in a park at home. It doesn't have to be in nature. You could do it by going to a church service. I used to, in San Francisco, to go to a church service in the Tenderloin, very tough neighborhood called Gly Memorial Church. And I would go there for the gospel choir because I just loved how everybody just felt like they were connected. I wasn't necessarily a Christian, but I loved the collective effervescence. So seek out moral beauty, collective effervescence, and nature, and you're more likely to find awe.
I hope you guys are enjoying this interview as much as me, because I'm really getting into this and thinking about in 2 days I have to go back to the United States. And I know I always kind of get this deflation when I go back north, and always get this real high when I go to Mexico. And I'm going to be doing a video, specifically addressing that. But I noticed this morning as I was driving here from La Paz, there was someone who was, hanging out by a car, and his dog was walking up to him, wagging its tail. And I was like, okay, this is, probably a stray dog, but he knows this guy. When I was over in Guadalajara, just the dogs hanging out outside the butcher shops because they knew sooner or later they're going to get fatted. it just made me feel really good. Last night after happy hour in La Paz, I was walking along the Malecon, which is just wonderful. Everyone is out with their families, and these are multi-generations, and people are smiling and happy, and it really, oh, and then there's a hummingbird right here. So these things just really are inspirational, and I think it just improves my mental state. Just there's so much here like that. As Chip said, that we hear about the cartels and all the negativity, but when you live here, you really don't see any of that. It exists in certain parts of Mexico, but it's not the places where most foreigners live. And there's so much good here, and the people are so good. And even the people who are attracted down here, the people who are foreigners who move to Mexico, are really great people. But let's hear more about this place, because this is a magical place. One thing I really like about this area of the Baja California Sur is how green it is. It is much more lush here near Todos Santos than it is over in La Paz, which is more of a deserty area. So this is almost like a oasis in the desert. So let's hear about the facilities here and also what people come here to learn.
So there's two pieces to what I'd like to talk about here. One is about why this area, Todos Santos and Pescadero and Cerritos, is so interesting. First of all, it has 5 landscapes. We have ocean, which everybody expects. We have desert. You expect that too. What you don't necessarily expect is there's mountains, 7,000-foot mountains. But the thing that's really distinguishing here is you have farmland and you have tropical. You can sort of feel the tropical. You're not here with us right now, but you can hear the birds. You can see the greenery. We have underground aquifers here. So while it is a dry climate, generally, there's 2 or 3 months of rain and the water stores. And therefore, we have a lot of farmland here. And because we have a lot of farmland, oh my God, we are a place for food. Todos Santos and Pescadero are famous as food destinations. And so it's a great place to eat. And speaking of Modern Elder Academy, or MEA here, that's one of the things people say when they come here is like, oh my God, I was fed so well. Not with just great food, but just really healthy, fresh food that just like the yellowtail tuna was just caught literally a mile down the beach. And we have an organic garden here right on campus. And so the produce is right here and fresh. So people come here, it's usually a 5-night or a 7-night program. There's a core curriculum that they learn, but there's also a sort of like icing on the cake, which is the theme of the week. So the week I'm here right now with you. I just taught 3 weeks in a row, which is a lot. I'm not teaching this week, but I'm here on campus. And we have a really famous surfer and skateboarder and filmmaker who's here, Stacy Peralta. And he's talking about how you deal with finding your purpose in your fall. And so what does that mean? So often in midlife, you feel like something fell, like something didn't go well. The midlife crisis is sort of like, I've fallen and I can't get up. But the idea that Stacy has shown is like, sometimes it's in your fall that you find your purpose. It's in that decline that you say, oh my gosh, I know what I want to be doing in my life. So that's what this week's workshop is about. So we'll have our core curriculum, which is focused on cultivating wisdom, navigating transitions, finding purpose. But then we'll have an additional piece, which is Stacy's content. We go surfing for people who want to go surfing during the week. We have a mindfulness teacher. We have massage therapists. We have a shaman who takes people up on the mountain and helps them do a cleansing and a blessing. So there's all kinds of great things going on here. 3 swimming pools, 2 hot tubs, 2 steam rooms, and we're right on the beach. So, and our beach is, there's almost never anybody on our beach. It's a 3-mile long beach. There's nobody here. So it is a little piece of heaven.
I just can't emphasize enough how beautiful this place is. They just kind of meander around between the houses and all the paths, and you just keep coming up on more pools and more fountains, more seating areas where you just kind of can hang out alone or in a group of 2 or 3 or a bigger group. It really is a space designed to enhance community and create those friendships.
The campus is almost like being in a home, because there are 4 homes that have been stitched together, each of them either new or major renovation. And so you sort of feel like you're in someone's home. And in fact, where we're sitting right now is my former home. I now live 10 minutes up the beach. But my home where I lived, and bought 8 years ago, is part of the campus. So it does feel very much like you're in a place where you're, I don't know, making friends that you're going to last for a lifetime, and you're staying in their home, even though it's not their home. Long story short is there are lots of different living rooms. As a result of that, there's a library with almost 1,000 books related to midlife. I have muled all of those back down here from the United States with me. There are kitchens. Each of the kitchens are totally stocked with food and alcohol, and so yes, we have great eating here, but you have snacks, and so it sort of feels like an adult summer camp in a very upscale and luxury kind of way. And most importantly, while our week-long programs are not inexpensive, we also have scholarships. So we have financial aid, and over half the people who have come to MEA have been on some form of financial aid. So when you go to the modernelderacademy.com website, check out the financial aid options as well if you need it. If you don't need it, great. But if you need it, we love having a diverse set of people here in our workshops. Workshops are about 16 to 24 or 28 people on average.
So I'm so glad I came by here. Actually, this was something one of my clients, Andrew, sent me, and he said, "Hey, you're in La Paz. You check out this place over in Pescadero. I've done this workshop there." Really was saying great things about it. So, and when I kind of went to the webpage and I was like, "Oh, Modern Elders Academy," and saw what this was about, I was like, "Well, even for those folks who are not quite ready to move to Mexico, this is a way of thinking." And potentially a retreat that you could go on that really applies to a lot of folks that watch my videos. So I hope you loved this video. There's going to be more content from La Paz or Guadalajara. You're going to find that up here. And also check out the workshops down below at Modern Elders Academy. We'll see you soon. Hasta luego.